The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Howdy ho, everybody. It's Thursday night, August 22nd, 2024. Larry, can you get any closer to the camera there?
Well, let's see here. Okay, we'll try.
Oh, my God. It's 11 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States. It's 10 p.m. in Chicago at the Democratic National Convention. And where we're sitting, or I'm sitting, in Northeast Minneapolis, it's also 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time, and welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. It's the convention panel, everybody. I want to mention that this is our episode number 151, if you're keeping the score at home. So I'm on the left here, and in the middle, that's Tim Conaway. Is that you? Can you talk?
I are here.
Okay, so we have and that's Larry Newman on the right.
Hey, everybody.
Lovely and talented there, and Zorro, Don Zorro has assured me he's going to show up, but he's probably drunk right now. So who knows? So yeah, okay. So I put you guys on because it's the last night of the Democratic National Convention.
Thank God.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I think too. It's like I just can't. I can't watch this stuff. And I gotta say, I really couldn't watch the RNC either. The only thing I really watched was Trump's speech at the end. But this is, my God, this is just like, it's like fingernails on blackboard. It's awful. I don't know. It's like, they should call themselves, well, I'm thinking about this, we're waiting to go on. They should call themselves the PFG, the Party of Feeling Good. It's like, because man, that's the idea. They're gonna feel good, It's joy. Queers for Palestine, yay!
When you go to some of these events, they always give you this little bag of stuff. As you go in, little gifts and stuff, and evidently it was full of pot or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, well, these things are free ads that given away by these networks. I don't understand why the networks cover this stuff from start to finish. Your news department can watch it and pick out the stuff of interest and show to people, but to give them, both of these parties 4 nights of basically free advertising just doesn't make any sense to me.
Hey, look who's here.
I know that they're, look out. It's
Is he here?
the sword of justice.
The sword of justice knows no other place to be than right here.
In your pants.
Hey, you guys didn't start at 9:00, did you?
Yeah, no, we started at 10, but you're 4 minutes late, so.
Oh, geez. All right. Boy, pretty strict around here.
Yeah, I know. It's, we kind of, we were all just off drinking or something, so. Like,
Tim, Larry, how the hell are you guys?
Well, pretty good.
Good.
You missed our last meeting. That's true. We've missed you.
Well, I was out buckling my swash.
Yeah, I bet you were.
Somebody's got to.
So I was just saying, we were just kind of lamenting about the fact that I happened to mention, I started this by saying it's the last night of the DNC, and Larry said, thank God. It's like, have you watched any of this?
No, I've just watched highlights. I mean, honestly, the highlights that I watched, man, I don't know how these people do and say what they do with a straight face, because this is the festival of projection like I have never seen. The things that they blame the Republicans for and what they have decided needs to get fixed, even though they've been in charge for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
It's like I keep getting confused. Is she actually running against Trump or is she running against Biden?
Oh,
I
who
don't
knows?
know. It's like you
Best-
have, yeah,
The
go
best
ahead, Zach.
phrase, the best phrase I heard was last night when they called it a convention, which is
Yeah.
about what it was.
Yeah.
It's all
From-
con.
from-
I haven't heard anything truthful
Well,
at all. Of course, I haven't watched hardly any of it either.
I
Yeah.
haven't either, but I did read that some panelist on CNN, right in the middle of the whole thing, he said, just like alluding to what Don was saying, he said that, well, has it ever occurred to anybody here that the Democrats have been in charge for 11 of the last 18 years?
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
You know?
No. I think it's literally. What did they say? 12 out of 16.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so what are they talking about? So Trump was in there for 3, and then one of the years he was dealing with COVID for
Yeah.
most of it. You kidding me? Come on now. I mean, I just don't understand the kind of nerve that
Well,
these people have.
They were interviewing a commerce secretary, the commerce secretary, about this reduction in the jobs numbers.
Only 818,000.
18,000. Yeah, and she
30%.
said, I've never heard of it. I don't know anything about it. She's the commerce secretary.
Yeah, I
I
know.
mean,
Yeah.
It's her
And
number.
it's
You
I
know,
mean, they
now,
literally
granted-
told her they were trying to tell her which department they came out of. That this
Yeah.
was the labor statistics.
which is the
She said,
commerce
"Well,
department.
I don't know about that.
Well, the thing is, so we know she's not sitting there in a calculator doing the calculations, but we assume somebody in the department is going to tell her. I mean, it's like,
Well, but no. But haven't you just hit on it? I mean, have you ever seen a crew of people that are less about communication than these folks?
Well,
I mean, never mind the whole Biden thing, and them not being honest about all that, but just from one group of people to another.
what is
I have
scary
never
about
seen
this, Don? What is really scary about this is you have a president, a vice president, and a cabinet who don't even know what's going on in their department. They are
Exactly.
figureheads. The other people are handling this, and they don't even know what goes on in their own department. It's a totally outrageous situation.
All of us have
you know.
been in charge of stuff in our
Yeah.
work lives. None of us would stand for this.
no.
Just on the micro, none of us would stand for not knowing what the hell is going on underneath you and perhaps even above you a little bit.
I know Conaway, he'd be firing people left and right.
Yes,
Oh.
that's why people used to run when I came walking down the hallways. The larger picture, the longer picture in this for me is you've got these people. This woman might not have known and it might not have been told, but she wasn't going to talk about it, whether she knew anything about it or not. And to me, this has been a growing thing in government. Government's always been less than transparent, but the lack of transparency in government the last 25 or 30 years has grown to the point that none of these people are going to tell you anything. They're not going to talk about anything that's unfavorable. If they do talk about something, they lie about it. And to me, it doesn't matter which party they're in or what bureau they're in or any of the rest of that stuff. We've got to this point where the government has isolated itself from the people and isn't held accountable, partly because we just have these two parties that close out all other opposition, but largely because these bureaucracies that run themselves, that maintain their own, they grease their own wheels, they feed themselves money through a hapless Congress. The government is completely detached from the people of the United States.
But
So
the bureaucracy, bureaucracy, all of the bureaucracy is under the umbrella of the executive branch, which is the president. The president, like Don said, the president needs to know what's going on all the time. And these last 3.5 years, none of them know anything about what's going on.
I was just watching that very cool, very excellent, very recommendable special that they have on Fox Nation, the one with Brett Baer. It's called The Unauthorized History of Socialism. And I just saw the 5th chapter of it. And what was astonishing to me, in addition to a lot of other things, was when you saw the whoever was in charge. I think at this point it happened to be Deng Xiaoping in charge of the Chinese, and he was presiding over some meeting, and the place was massive, absolutely massive in terms of all the representatives. I guess I don't know how the system worked there at that time for these various places, but it was like like a small version of Target Center. It's like that scene from Star Wars where the Emperor is talking to everybody, and it's absolutely massive. And then there was Mao Zedong's funeral. There were 1 million people that were in attendance at this funeral, and as the camera pulled out to show this, my mouth just opened in disbelief. And so there's the issue. There's the thing I think that Tim talks about, because I kind of come down on the idea that a lot of this lying, and that's what it is, comes just because of the pure size of governments, just the pure size of the countries and the masses that you have to go over. It is so much easier to lie the larger things get, which is why they allow themselves to get as big as they do. They can't live without it, because with intimacy comes transparency, as we all know since we're married. So we to be able to fix this, I don't know how you fix it, because we are a country of what now it's 330 million, I guess, 20 million of whom are illegal. And even right there, look at that. Just imagine what the scene that stupefied me at Mao's funeral. Imagine 20 to 30 times that size, and those are the people that are in here illegally.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you solve that? At some point, you just got to kind of throw your hands up in the air and just say, well, we're kind of stuck with this. I mean,
I would say
it's courage. It takes courage.
Yeah, and it takes somebody who's an experienced, a real manager to weed this out. We've got 2.5 million federal employees. We've got another 1.5 million private contractors.
The last figure, Tim, I heard is that it's up to 4 million employees now.
Well, it's 4 million total when you've got the 2.5 actually on the federal payroll, and then the 1.5 million contractors. You got the 4 million. And one thing is you cut out the departments that don't belong constitutionally, aren't really sanctioned in the federal government. So like Department of Education and a few of others, you can cut them out. You cut down the size of these branches, because what I would do and what I've done in places where I've worked, and I've had to not only manage, improve the outcome of the workflow, but cut costs at the same time is what do you do, uh, exactly what do you do step by step, and what result does it get? And you, it's a top-down, question that you have everybody ask, and if they can't answer it, or if the answers are repeated along the line, you know exactly where you can start making the cuts to improve efficiency and improve the workflow. But it takes something like that to do it. You can't just send a general directive, everybody's got to get more things done, or like that. You've actually got to, at a mess like this, you've actually got to get in and dig out all of the waste, or as the Japanese call it, muda muda, and you trim out the waste. Then you see how things operate, and then you can actually change the workflow once you've got things that operating in something that you can have oversight on.
Okay, but guys, I have a question.
Yeah.
All right, so there's 330 million people in the country. We've got 4 million people in the bureaucracy. If we get rid of half of them, do we still have exactly the same problem? Is it still so goddamn massive? It won't
This
work.
was going to be my
depends.
point. Yeah, that was going to be my point. Is that, has anybody ever figured out if this country has ever run well? What was the proportion of government entities and employees to the ratio of the number of people in the population? Anyway, you think about that, Larry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like Tim was saying. It we do not need a lifetime politician sitting as CEO of the United States of America. It takes a businessman. It takes someone or businesswoman, whoever, but it takes someone who's operated a business, who knows how to run a business, because that's what this is. They have to know how to cut the fat, how to get rid of the unnecessary, how to control the spending. That is a legislative issue, but the president submits his budget to the legislature, okay? But if you're going to submit a budget that is 20% less than it was a year ago because you've cut out the fat, what legislature's not going to take it? But you still have to have someone who has the courage. We were talking about the illegals a while ago. All it takes is courage. The laws are already there. All it takes is the courage to stand up and say, if you come in contact with an illegal and you take them into custody, ICE will be there and we'll deport them. That's the law. That's how the law works right now. Okay, we're not going to allow sanctuary cities or sanctuary states. Okay, because as soon as they start that kind of crap, then you don't get any federal money. Okay,
Yeah. So,
put a stop to
Larry,
this
I got to
real
ask
quick.
you, because you've done this. You understand this stuff. But I think that even if you were hardcore about it, tell me if I'm wrong. In 5 years, you still couldn't even get rid of half of the legal people here.
I think once you implemented the existing federal law that if they are here illegally, they will be deported. I think probably 25% is going to pick up their stuff and go home
And leave, yeah, that
on
might
their
true.
own.
Yeah,
And there's something else too. You have to prioritize who it is you want to get rid of, because it's a question of perception. If you make it your business, if Trump were to win and make it his business to go after the MS-13s that are in here, if he gets rid of the people that are real dangers to our society and make sure that everybody make a good enough show of that, he's not going to have to worry so much about Juan and Maria who came in and he's just like working on roofs and she's,
Correct. That-
working as somebody that nobody's going to care as much. It's the
and
folks
that's
that
where your law enforcement, like I said on the last show, that's where your law enforcement comes in, because they're coming into contact with the people committing crimes. If they're here illegally and they've committed a crime, they go to jail and they sit and wait until ICE picks them up and sends them out. That no one's going to have a problem with that. I agree with you. It's optically it would be bad to go pick up women and kids that's had no
Exactly.
problems with society, and start throwing all them out first. No, you've got to go with the MS-13, the gangs, the all of the drug cartel people,
The
all of the
Chinese,
all of the people that are trafficking in kids and women. Those are the ones that's got to go and go first. But you also stop the tide. At the same time as you're doing
Yeah.
that, you have to stop the inflow. Okay, and
That's it.
remain in Mexico, which he got accomplished, needs to be re-implemented. You don't come across until you are a citizen and come across legally. And 75% of the Hispanic in the legal Hispanics in this country are 100% behind that. So, like I said, it comes back to courage, standing up, doing what's right. We have the laws already. We don't need, and this law that the Democrats keep talking about that they wanted to pass to fix, they wanted to fix immigration so it would make it easier for people to illegally come here. That was the fix. That's why that law did not go through, and it was spending more money so that the Democrats will have more people donating that money back to them for their campaign next time.
Boy, the Republicans have really sucked at coming back on that particular issue, haven't they? It's
well,
like
Don,
they keep,
it's like when you're in a divorce, okay? You are going to try to stand up and fight fairly, and that's not going to work because the other side is not going to fight fair. Okay? And we're seeing this right now. Okay?
I'm sorry, Larry. Are
Trump
you
gets up
speaking from
there and he
experience?
talks about everything, and then the Democrats come along, oh, he lies, he lies, he lies.
Yeah.
But they cannot factually come up with any one thing, any single thing that he ever lied about.
Well, it's not just that.
Throwing mud at the wall.
You just brought this up about the fact that so he solved the problem, and then they got in and they redid the problem, and now they're blaming him for the problem.
Correct.
It's
This is what the thing
hilarious.
is.
Yeah,
This
and
is about everything.
they inherited
It's
9% inflation.
I know.
The day they walked into office. Give me a break. People know, and this is the thing that gets me. They are lying so blatantly and so bald-faced. Everybody knows they're lying, and they don't care.
They don't care at all.
So
Hey, Tim.
why are we even spending time watching these idiots up there?
I don't think any of us are watching. I'm not watching.
I'm really not
either.
watching.
I
Hey,
mean,
Tim, did your irony alarm go off when these guys put up this wall to keep out the Palestinian Hamas people protest? I laughed my ass off. I mean, when I saw, and you know, it looked a lot like some of the walls that Trump put up. It was.
and walls themselves don't keep people out. I mean, we've seen in lots of footage in the last few years of people just walking past an opening, walking through an opening where the wall was built, while the border patrol guys stood there helpless to do anything because they had been called off. They'd been basically told to stand down.
Right.
Well, when this whole wall thing came up, I just wondered, didn't anybody ever hear of China? It took them 800 years to build a wall across the entire southern border of the thing to keep out, Mongol invaders.
Yeah.
And then, one day a bunch of Mongol horde shows up and they bribe the gatekeepers and they just come through the gate. So the wall, the wall itself doesn't stop anything. You have to allow the enforcement or, maintain the enforcement of the thing. And I think uh, that's where we go wrong on the border issue. Uh, Also, drugs and that kind of stuff are coming through tunnels, are coming in shipping containers and other stuff. We're not really stopping a whole lot with that. It's just uh, mainly the hordes of illegal aliens coming in to the thing. But without the human enforcement aspect,
Right.
the wall is just, something to climb over or walk around.
Yeah.
And then, of
Does
course,
anybody?
we're living at a. I'm sorry, we're living at a time when the appeal of being law enforcement has gone way down because there's no backup.
Oh God.
Right, Larry?
Yeah.
I can't-
That's true. And anybody, it occurred to anybody that this van that they pulled up outside the arena for vasectomies and abortions, okay, and within 24 hours, all the appointments were full. Who the hell is going to go down to a van for a vasectomy? Okay, I'm talking to you guys.
I've had
You
one.
know what I'm doing.
So I
I
gotta
know,
tell you,
but
I don't want
this
one in
is
the
not
van.
the place
I'm-
you're going to go for it. Okay,
I got
your
Hey,
vasectomy.
we're gonna
I got your
run down here
vasectomy
to
right
this
here,
van
buddy.
and get an abortion. Just off the cuff. Who
Yeah.
believes all that crap?
And also, I mean, seriously, an abortion's harder, isn't it? I mean, it's than a
A little
vasectomy.
bit.
And I'm not going to have my vasectomy in a van. I'm sorry, I'm not.
I mean, they sold this bill of goods, and who the hell is going to believe that?
Hey guys, we got a call here, and I think I know who this is. I'm not sure. Hi, who's this?
Hey, this is Think. I wanted to run a theory that I heard or past you guys to see how you guys feel about it,
Sure.
if it's okay. So I was told that, okay, you're gonna have to forget what's going on with the current state of immigration here in the United States with the illegals. I was told that if the United States took its money and start investing in Mexico to build up its economy and the level of entrepreneurship, education, to build up Mexico, that eventually the people would want to just stay in Mexico instead of trying to come across the border to come over here. Now, the United States would invest in Mexico, and eventually that investment will get to a point where the profits will go back to the United States. For example, China gets a lot of its cobalt to build its iPhone or its phone parts and computer parts from Mexico. And they bring it back to China, and then they sell it throughout the world. Now, why do you have to have China do it when Mexico is right next to the United States? Why not have these businesses actually do it themselves and bypass China? Also, you increase the education over there by having better teachers and increasing the level of intelligence in Mexico itself. And eventually, you would hire the people from Mexico.
Well,
Does that
think.
make sense?
Not only does it
I
not
think
make
that is an outstanding idea. It's a wonderful idea. And
People-
it would be great. It would be great if the cartel didn't run the government of Mexico,
Boom.
but they
There's your
don't want
problem.
that. The government of Mexico does not want that. They're making too much money off the illegal trade from
Exactly.
the United States. And and there would be some trade-offs. There would be some conditions before that happened, and things
it's
would
not
have
as-
to be worked out correctly with Mexico before that kind of investment. But it's an outstanding idea in theory.
Well, but the thing is it's not as though that's not already happening. We're
Yeah.
spending a lot of money in Mexico. We are doing that. The education thing, I'm afraid that's really up to the Mexican government. But you've got, like I say, we traditionally have been doing it. I don't know to what extent now, but at some point you do have to kind of say, look, this really is your problem. If you guys can keep track of the money, which I don't think that they can or are willing to, because sorry, but corruption is just a fact of life in Latin American countries, every bit as much as as it is here. But I think, based on my experience,
All right, well,
Yeah.
I'll throw a question out and think for you too. Do we need to do a military intervention on shutting the cartels down? I mean, is it a military operation? Is it really, literally, do we need to actually invade?
Well,
no, we don't need to invade.
Uh,
We can do it from here. We can do it from here.
Well-
It'd take you 6 months. You're done.
yeah, it's a long and complicated planning and strategy to battle the cartels in Mexico. You do have the problem of so much corruption in the government that would have to get their permission and not invade or go to war with Mexico, but to have uh, a strike military action against the cartels to weaken them, to find out their financial holdings and seize those and put those on hold so that you could decapitalize their activities. The comment about China working with them is China openly works with corruption anywhere, and they like it because they'll work directly with the cartels. They'll deal directly with the cartels, their government, and in order to get what they want in these places. And they ignore the fact that this is bad for the Mexican people because they don't care about the Mexican people. So they're not a great example of how we could operate unless a bunch of American companies participated in the corruption with the cartels, which is not something I think we would advocate.
Well, I think this is a great idea that he brought up. Again, you've got to go back to number one. It takes courage and the knowledge on how to negotiate that kind of a deal.
Yeah.
And it takes someone who's willing to step up and do what's necessary from strength to work with them and get this accomplished. But yes, it's a great idea. It could be done, but it's going to take someone special, and Donald Trump's dealt with the other countries seriously and consequentially for years. So he would know how to get that done and would be strong enough to get it done.
Think, are you
and
still
also
there?
don't forget the value of being a one-term president. He's got nothing to lose.
Yeah,
he
that's
can
right.
rule from day one to day, whatever 4 times 365 is.
There's no end if he gets in.
Yeah.
What was that?
If Donald Trump gets in, his term of office is not going to end. He didn't want to give up the last time, so
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to see him. But
I'm sorry, I forgot.
yeah,
Tim? Yes.
Is our caller still there?
Yes, he is. Think is still there. Go ahead, Think.
Yeah, so this is something that, like, I hear what
Can you raise his volume?
and it makes a good point that there is corruption, but we have something here in the United States that's pretty interesting, and that's money. And I think how can China do it? So this is something that I believe skill will correct. You have to have a person with skill. If China can do it through just business, through talking and communication with these cartels, if Mexico is that corrupt, how you guys are explaining it, I think if China can do business with them, why can't someone in the United States do it? And I think the reason why it hasn't been done is because we haven't had that level of skill within the politicians here, within our government, to establish a communication with our neighboring country. We're right next to it. Why can't we have people? This country doesn't have enough politicians or governmental people with enough skills to deal with that. And I think this is something that we would need a president like Trump with skill to come in and say, this is how we are going to establish an economic system with our neighboring countries.
Well, he's already started this. He's already started this because if you
All right.
remember, he came in and he redid the Mexico, U.S. and Canadian uh,
Trade
agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, the
Mhm.
trade agreement.
Right.
That was
Right.
the first step that had to be done to get the trade agreement set right, so that then you could start to negotiate exactly what you're talking about. So yes, he started it. If someone could have stepped in and continued that on, because that's what they wanted to continue on, that would have been it. We could have been far down the road.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is going to take years. It's going to take 10, 15, or 20 years to accomplish what you're talking about. But yes, it can be done.
Yes, and I agree with you. I know it's going to take a long time, but it's going to take also. I hate to say this. I really hate to say this, but it also we're going to have to limit the racism within this country for the majority of Americans to understand that helping Mexico will benefit us in the long term.
Hold it. Think. I'm sorry. I don't follow your
No.
line.
Yeah.
Of,
Yeah. I don't get it
Racism
either.
was dead in this country in
How-
2008.
how did we get from? How did you get from helping Mexico? Are you saying that you think most Americans are inherently racist against Mexicans? Or that is
No. I think of a lot of I don't know how to say this properly. I think a lot of Americans would disagree with the country giving money to Mexico to help them out. Do you understand? I feel that
Yes, if it was a giveaway, that's
Nope.
correct.
yeah, and I don't think that a lot of Americans understand that it's not a giveaway, that it's helping them, so that eventually this country, Mexico, will grow, and in return will benefit the United States in the future. But I don't think a lot of Americans will want that because there's a level of racism here that towards Mexicans.
Yeah, see, I
No,
disagree. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that at
no,
all. I
there's
think
no
people are
racism
really sick
involved.
and tired of spending money that we don't have. Tim? What are we up to now with the national debt? Is it
$37 trillion.
Are we up to 37 trillion? Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
correct.
37 trillion, and
we're already at a debt that we cannot ever recover from.
well,
I mean,
and despite that, we spend $47 billion a year in foreign aid throughout the
Right.
world. And most
Yeah,
of it
but
is not accounted for. Uh, the 47 billion is from 2 years ago because we can't get an accounting of what was done in the past fiscal year, let alone, what's happening now. And after it's doled out, there's no accounting, no auditing, no follow-up. It's just handed out. And to get back to our bureaucracy thing, the organizations and whatever in the foreign countries that received this aid or requested this aid don't appear before Congress or have a representative appear before Congress in the budgeting process. The U.S. Department people or the people who handle the foreign aid, our bureaucrats come before Congress and tell them what's needed for these other things. So it's just our bureaucrats furthering their role in the dole, basically.
yeah. So
Think, are
let's
you
be
still there? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Don.
no, just saying. Let's be really
Elaborate on what
clear.
I'm saying here.
Wait, you still talking? Okay.
Hold on. Go ahead. Go ahead. Think.
Okay, so please let me elaborate. I think that America, there's a level, there's a bunch of politicians that want to help Mexico, want to give money to Mexico, but I think that a lot of the backing, which is the people that back these politicians, America is a republic, it's not a democracy. We elect these officials to make our decisions for us. And it's these politicians are backed by us, the people. And I think that they don't want to give money to Mexico to help this country because a lot of the people don't understand that. the point that I'm trying to put across there. And I call it racism. I don't know how else to say this, other than the fact that they don't want to help this country. They see Mexicans as a threat more than a possibility for future benefit. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? High level.
It's naive to think that the politicians actually represent the people. There's some of that, but the politicians represent the parties that they're in and the party platforms, and they follow the procedures in general of the party. They if there was some benefit directly to the politicians in this, they wouldn't care what the people thought about Mexicans or Palestinians or any other group of people. The politicians are the ideal is that they represent the people, but the reality is they represent themselves and the interest of the party that they're in, and the party keeps them in office as long as they follow the platform. That's the sad truth of it.
Hey,
That's the reality of how this is.
Yeah.
But if we can overlook, I'm sorry, Jim.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
If we could overlook, if the people of this country could overlook the fact that helping Mexico is a bad thing, then I would think that it would benefit this country. And that's all I have to say. I don't know. Take it how you will. Thanks for having me on, Jim.
Hey, thanks for calling. I really appreciate it. Always do. Call again, okay? We'll talk to you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, guys.
He's a
I
regular
don't
caller.
See, and I understand. I just don't. The only people claiming racism are the people who are racist, and we had that eliminated in late 2000s, and it infuriates me because
Yeah, we talked about this before. We were almost done with this in this country. I mean, we pretty much cut up to the finish line, and all of a
Jesse
sudden,
Jackson and his cronies kept it alive because they made money on it.
That's right.
But then along comes Obama and stirs it up. I mean, it's
it benefits all these people, all the programs that they run. By making out that certain races need help, more than other races, by creating that racial divide and building up that all these people can't get ahead because they're racially held back. Then that means all of these between the federal government's money being allocated and the people who might actually need it, there's a whole string of people who get their cut of it down the line. And that's why this issue comes up. That's why it's made.
We live in a country
made into an issue when it was just about.
We live in a country where you can immigrate here legally, have $10 in your pocket, and in 5 years be wealthy. It's called work.
Yeah.
It's called work.
And some smarts.
You work your butt off. You do what you need to do to get ahead. You work. You build a business. You start a business. You build it. People do it every day.
That was
and
pretty much
every person that I hear that said, "Well, this country, you can't get ahead." Well, no. If you take all the government handouts and sit on the couch all the time, you're never going to get ahead.
That's one of the problems with government handouts. Your story is my father's story. He took the boat over to Ellis Island, $20 in his pocket, and 10, 15 years later, he was doing really well.
Correct.
That leads me into a subject that I've been thinking about all day, and that is this what I forgot which tax.
You're not talking about Judge Janine, are you?
Oh God, no! I think about her all year.
I know.
But
You guys, and
Go
this
ahead.
fascination with this 70-year-old woman. Have you ever seen her without makeup?
I have got to hug her before. Okay,
What?
I have met her and hugged her before.
Who? Judge Janine?
Judge
Yeah.
Janine.
Yeah, I know
we've
you have.
heard.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so
You
so
wouldn't
this
let go.
tax that this tax that they're proposing now, Harris and company. So, okay, let me see if I get this straight. So, I'm a well-to-do guy, and I'm able to save enough money, and I have an idea. I'm going to sock away some money, put a little bit in it every month or whatever, and really grow it. And I'm going to use Wall Street to grow it. I'm going to put it in a really good investment fund. So that unrealized, so I get to pay taxes on the money that I'm making in order to sock away. So that's tax number one. Now
Yeah.
we've got this proposal for the unrealized income.
Yeah.
So while that's sitting there, that's tax number two.
Yeah.
And then when I'm 70 years old and realize, oh shit, I haven't saved nearly enough because of the cost of living, but what the hell, I'll start to take this out. Then they come in with tax number three.
Correct.
Boom. And
That's right.
so have I basically got that right?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah,
that right.
okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Then we should send a copy of this to Ms. Harris, just
Yes,
so
we
that
should.
whenever she needs to refer to it, so she has the plan right and she knows exactly who she's screwing and how much.
Yes. And I'll just say this right now, it's the stupidest fucking thing ever.
It's
It's like,
ridiculous.
my God. I mean, and not only that, seriously, at what point, how much money do they need? That's the
No,
thing.
isn't that what Obama said?
Well,
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
at one
Never
point,
stops.
how much
It never
money do you
stops.
actually need?
Right.
I've got a question for those on this panel who are worth 100 million or more. That money you don't
only
have
how-
rat holed under your mattress, do you? You have invested in the stock market, which means that money goes to these small companies so that they can borrow the money that they need to build businesses and become wealthy. Okay, that's who benefits from this money. I'm sick and tired of hearing about the wealthy, from
Yeah.
billionaires, from millionaires, from Oprah. And I want to know how the Obamas went from a broke, flunking, a college student smoking dope to worth over $70 million and 4 mansions across the country.
Well,
Well,
hold
it
on.
was
How did
really
we get there?
It was
Larry,
really good.
the answer to
dope.
that question is that the first book royalties. He made millions of dollars off of book royalties. That's where he really made his initial money. Before that, he had nothing. And so then he made a few $1 million off book royalties, and then he becomes president, and the whole thing blows up.
Well,
So
so
it's
wait a
like-
minute. Wait, no, this gets really rich. So you aren't telling me that he made all this money and invested it, are you?
No, he didn't. He actually made it. Originally, he made it off of book royalties.
No,
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah, but
saying
then-
all that
then
money
he-
that he made, he
Oh, I'm
had
sure
to
it's
invest
invested
it.
somewhere. I don't know where.
Yes.
I don't. I mean, he sold several million books,
Oh,
and you figure
man.
maybe about a buck. Tim's in publishing, maybe roughly $1 a book. It's like so.
Well, it could be these days. I don't know. It used to be like 10 cents, but yeah. Well, whatever he made off of them. Well, there's the advance, and then sales against the advance, and
Well,
you get out. So you get some money off that. But yeah, he had to invest it to grow, to 70 million and 4 mansions. And
it's
those
worth 70
investments.
million, but
No,
what
you
does
guys
it cost to
are
maintain
totally wrong
and
about this.
live?
You become president, and then Netflix gives you a contract for $100 million,
Yeah.
and you don't have to do anything, and you don't, and you still get the $100 million. That's the way it works.
Mhm.
Yep.
Exactly. Well,
I
if they
saw-
want to tax all of the money that I'm not making from investments that I don't have, then I think I will pay them exactly that amount. So,
Yeah, that would
Just
be
to
from
be clear.
unrealized investments, not
Yeah.
unrealized, not
Yeah.
unrealized gains, unrealized investments. Right?
Yeah.
My point was that they go after they vilify all of these millionaires, these successful companies that have been built by people that worked hard. They go after them. Okay. Meanwhile, they're wealthy themselves, but they don't understand economics 101.
No, they don't.
These people don't have it buried in their backyard.
No.
They're investing it in stock market and in investments in businesses all over the world. They're buying stock, which pays the salaries of working people everywhere. So when you go attacking the wealthy and you want to take all their money that they're making, okay, you really hurt the small guy. It's just like inflation right now. All of the food in line from the guy that's growing the cattle all the way to the meat in your grocery store, all of those people all the way along the line are losing. The price is going up because of inflation, because they can't spend as much money as they want. They spend and spend and spend, causes inflation, and the consumer is the one that pays it in the end.
Yeah, literally.
You do mean in the end.
That's
Yes,
correct.
That's right. That's right.
You know,
So
I
Yeah,
don't think I've ever
she
seen
wants to do
anybody-
that too.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't
to me,
I've never
the,
seen. Go ahead.
Go-
Go ahead, Tim.
okay, well, to me, you want to make the wealthy pay their fair share. And of course, Jeff Myers always asks them, what is the fair share? What's the formula to figure that out? But to tax people more heavily because they're successful is like a penalty on being successful. And so to me, it discourages people from, from A, either being successful, or B, honestly handling their finances. In the other problem with the Democrats, and this was a big Obama thing, is the too big to fail and the bailouts, GM and that kind of stuff. It's like if people, private companies take a risk, a financial risk, and they are successful, they're entitled to that success. If they take a risk and they fail, they're entitled to the failure. And the government doesn't have any place in there other than a fair tax, not a fair share tax, but a fair tax. But, the risk is either rewarded with success, or you fail and you pay the price for failure, or you enjoy the price of success.
There's not a better example of what you're talking about than big bad evil pharma. So everyone talks about all this terrible
Bernie Sanders.
that pharmaceutical companies make, but 90% of this stuff, they will typically spend $500 million to run tests on a drug, and it turns out and it fails. That's not unusual at all. I know a guy who worked in pharma. He said they did this all the time. So then you have one drug that makes a lot of money, and it's great. But how do you pay for all the money you lost trying to get everything?
Exactly.
90% of the stuff they do does come to market.
I was unfortunate enough to catch Bernie Sanders the other night at the DNC, and he was talking about making big pharma cut their prices, and everybody gets the thing like they do in other countries. And of course, the other countries he's talking about are socialist countries where they do that. And you don't get it, Bernie. These are private businesses; they're not owned by the government.
I've been watching.
I couldn't have said it any better myself.
I've been watching these interviews that they go around Chicago and they talk to the residents there and the people. And it is heartening to see that a lot of the black people are finally waking up and saying, Democrats have lied to us for too long.
Yeah.
Because the Democrats for 75 years have sold them a bill of goods to win an election, and then immediately turned their back on them and walked away. And these people are finally seeing this. They're finally waking up to it. And it is heartening to see that.
And how long ago did I predict this, Jim?
Oh, about 3-4 years ago. I don't know.
Well, it was after, it was about 2.5 years ago, and I remember bringing it up at one of our conch sessions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it's just been creeping in up bit by bit, and I think if he manages to get even, well, it's going to be split. He is going to get more of the black male vote than he is going to get the black female votes. And
I
don't know
wouldn't be
how-
so, I wouldn't be so quick to predict that.
Really?
I don't think she's going to get the black female vote as much as they like to think she is.
Well,
Oh, do
people
tell.
brought.
I
people are
don't.
starting to
I
talk
don't
about this.
think so.
They'll
I
call me
think we'll
racist for bringing this up, and it depends how you define the term. She's not really black.
No,
She's half
not.
half Jamaican and
she's-
half Indian.
She's
you
as
know?
black as I am
But
Well,
she's
yeah, that's the
she's
thing,
for the
right.
same
Pedro.
reasons.
If you're gonna,
You know?
most people, I think, when they hear the term black, they're assuming African American. She is not
Right.
African American,
Bingo.
and
That's
you're
the
not either,
difference.
John. You're not
That's
African
the
American either.
difference. Exactly.
I'm waiting for him to go after people with different hair colors. I mean, this is it's just that ridiculous.
Well, you'll be
Okay.
at the point where it
I-
won't matter, will it?
Well, I mean,
All
the
right,
color of your
all right.
skin
I gotta
just
ask you guys about this.
makes
and
as
this
much difference as the color of your hair.
This
What?
makes me a terrible human being. I'm in my car the other day and walking in the crosswalk in front of my car. There's a very large, obese black woman, and guess what? She has purple hair, and I'm just like thinking,
Well, she wanted to be noticed.
she does. And this is a stereotype now. It's like, I mean, I hate to say it, but it is.
That's what makes her a person of color.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
that's
does.
right. Well, she's special. That's something I think. She wants me to notice that she's special. So I,
Yeah.
you
Back in the 60s, it was always the people that were on welfare and not working were the ones who drove Cadillacs.
yeah.
Okay, so now it's the ones that are on the government dole and are not working that have the purple hair and the 3-inch long fingernails and the tattoos everywhere, and that's
That
kind
shit
of
costs
the,
money.
yeah. It's and two or three cell phones in their pocket,
Right.
which are all paid for by the government. I mean, and that's
Well,
I
thought
where
the
we
butts
come
were
from.
just big. I didn't know it was the cell phones. I thought they just had big butts.
I knew you guys would come up with something. Okay, so let's go back to the election here. All right, so it's starting to look more and more like 1980 all over again. Is this what you guys are kind of getting? That it's like
I can't find any time that it is as comparable to this insanity that we're seeing now. I mean, honestly, the insanity that was going on in 1980 was that we had the hostage situation, and we had a very strong speaker in Ronald Reagan, and Jimmy Carter was just sort of off on his own, sort of imploding. But the closest that I think I can get to anything like this, we'd have to go back to the late 60s, wouldn't we? And when all the protests were going on, Vietnam was going on. So that's what more of what this feels like to me. I mean, I wasn't there. I just heard about it from you older guys.
Well, and I'm thinking back in the '64 election. When you've got this governor of Georgia who is a KKK guy and very much racist, jumping in, and it was so ridiculous that it just didn't pan out for him. But this is, I don't know. This may be, and I know there's a book out about all the presidents and all the negative stuff about them, but in my lifetime, 70 years, this is probably the worst. And think about this, okay? How many primary votes has she gotten in 2 presidential campaigns?
0.
Not one vote.
Yeah.
Our democratic process is set up in this way, and she's got 0, and she is running for president
And like you said, she's got 0 twice.
twice.
Yeah.
Twice she's got 0.
You know,
I shouldn't
And then-
laugh. It's not funny, really.
Well, this setup to me, I don't think there's anything that we've had anything like it, because what the two candidates that, because we're locked in with this corrupt two-party system, but the two candidates are as far apart on the spectrum as you can get. And the center, which is most of the population, has no candidate. They're being asked to choose between somebody way out on the left side and somebody who identifies on the right side. Trump
he's
gets a
more
lot of
middle
support.
right. He's more middle right than he is.
Well, yeah, he is, but he has found a great deal of support on the very conservative right, and so he's catering to that crowd, and so it's like never that I look at in the whole history of the nation have we had people this far apart with absolutely, and it's not just that they're that far apart, but there's neither side is offering anything toward the middle of the spectrum. They're all, talking the as far apart as possible. And my concern with all this is that the large middle of the spectrum, with no feeling like they have no choice, won't vote. And so whoever gets in with, less than a third of the eligible voting population actually contributing to it. They call it a mandate, no matter how little their margin is or their support is. But I think this is just, to me, really, really sad, because it's the when you have this whole big group of people that feel left out of the process, what ultimately happens, the decay of the system begins with that inertia.
Well, I respect what you're saying, Tim, but we went through how many months of and for the last almost a year now of a Republican primary, and with a half dozen people vying for the that seat as the Republican nominee, and everyone in the country had the opportunity to vote for who they wanted to. I don't think that Trump is as far right as everybody wants to think, but the great gulf that has been created by this ultra socialistic communist left has left the middle of the country totally far behind. And I listen to these Democrats talking on these news shows, and the things that they're promoting, the things that they're saying, and when you hear what they're saying, you are left with the question is, why are you still a Democrat? Because everything you are proposing that you believe in is a Republican philosophy. So what, the middle, everybody except the far left is in the Trump camp and is being served by that camp, and all of the ideas and promoted philosophies will include them. But this far left thing, it's gone so far. It's created a gulf of its own.
You know what? Okay, so this used to be the left. Okay, let's put it over here. This used to be the left. This used
That's
to
your
be
right hand.
the right. Okay? shit. I don't know if I can do this. This is I'm doing this shit
I don't know if you
backwards.
can either.
Yeah, okay. But now what's happened is that the left has gone this way. The right really hasn't changed. And so now the perception of what the middle is much more leftist. When you consider the way that the views on abortions have changed. Remember, abortion used to be really you either are or you aren't. And now it's turned into life of the mother, life of the child, all the little exceptions, that there are in that. That did not exist at first. Just like they had the abortion. Well, we're going to make it safe, legal, and rare. Well, that's not the rare part. That went out the window a long time ago. But yet still, abortion still occupies a perceived middle ground when it wasn't that at all at one point. So I think that the graph, the movement of the graph has had a big part in determining what's left and what's right. I don't even know if I can define it. I mean, I know how I feel. I don't feel like an ultra right person. I feel, quite frankly, like someone who is much more center right, in
Right.
terms of my own determinations of what it is. But the left, the people that are occupying that middle, say, well, you're clearly far right. And that's a frustration, I gotta say.
I found the
Well,
same thing.
they
Don.
haven't told the truth about anything else, so they can claim whatever they want.
Right.
The
right,
real
right,
amazing.
right.
Go ahead, Don.
No, I was just gonna say, and of course, the obvious thing is the media play a great role in those determinations and drumming it and drumming it and drumming it and drumming it. That's why we started the show off with this business of how the hell did we start the show off? I forgot, but I know we started the show off with something that has something to do with what I'm saying now. The point is that the media have a great deal to do with what the perceptions of reality are, even though they aren't reality. It's a false reality.
Yeah, it
Correct.
is totally. Tim, you spent most of your career as a journalist.
Well, a lot of it.
Are we in a false reality?
Well, yeah, I think, I was trying to recall because both of these, the Republican National Corporation and the Democratic National Corporation conventions, covering 4 nights of it, everything that happened on all 4 nights. I don't remember this from the past. I don't remember that the acceptance speech by the president or the presidential candidate was usually brought live, but not every other little thing that goes on. And like I said earlier, it's free advertising to these people. I don't know why the networks do it, but people watch this and they feel like they're at the convention and everybody is applauding and cheering for every little stupid thing that somebody says. Even somebody who's not a Democrat, he's an independent, but he's speaking with the Democrats. And I looked at the tone, and the Republican, when I looked, I watched a couple of different networks and tried to look at the tone and see, how much in the middle they were doing. And basically, they weren't doing anything. Nobody had anything interesting to say during the lulls where you had 4 or 6 people sitting around the table talking about, what Hulk Hogan just had to say or some crap like that.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, we know that there are biases in the various parts of the media, but to me, the media just isn't doing anything. They just turn on the microphone and the cameras and let it run.
So are they used to easy money? Is that
Yeah.
the deal?
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
the whole thing. Although again, they're giving this away. I don't understand this.
Well, that some of them got their hands slapped this week. I mean, some of the CNN and CNBC and some of those that would normally, you know, the lies were so preposterous that they had to question them,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and they got their hands slapped. Okay, how dare you question our lies? We're
Yeah.
not, we're not even going to talk to you if you're going to question us.
Well, I
Yeah.
had this on my show notes for last night. I had the dynamic duo here, and so we did kind of bring this up about the fact that it does seem like the in some small way the legacy media or the mainstream media, whatever you want to call it, are starting to kind of push back. It's like
Yeah.
they're kind of tired of like being the Democrats' lap boys, and I mean there were some things printed about Kamala the last couple of days by the left wing media that was not particularly flattering, and that I found that kind of surprising.
Well, how are you going to go from being somebody who a month ago was, oh my God, we gotta absolutely no way should she be anywhere near the president. Okay, Cammy, we're with you. You're the best. You're going to bring us together. How you can't do that in a month. I can understand that kind of change in the process of maybe 3-4 years. One can evolve, and that would be quick in my opinion.
Yeah.
But for this to happen over literally a month's time, they just have to. They are taking a euphoria bath right now. They are sitting there in their euphoria bath water with their heads underneath, smelling their own farts and going, God, that's the best I've ever smelled in my life. And what are you going to do?
We are going back 600 to 700 years to the feudal society, where the chosen person is crowned regardless of what the people want, because the people don't matter. And that's not what this country was built on. But this was a few people who chose this person to be the candidate for president for the Democratic Party without one single vote of the people of this country. And the danger of that, and I've said for years, be careful, because this bureaucracy is going to grow, and it's going to look like the Hunger Games, where you've got all of the bureaucrazy sitting around there.
We're
because
really
they're the ones
close to that already. That's right.
And we got one guy at the top, and he rules with an iron fist. We're going coming back to Castro, and we're coming back to Mao, and all that other stuff. It's a scary thing, and then to see it actually happen. This is the first time this has happened. Now, presidents have been assassinated or died, and the vice president stepped in and took over, but then ran for president the next time. But to see this kind of a coronation of a queen, this is not what this country is.
And also, conversely, I mean, you can make the argument that what happened to Biden was a coup. I mean, it's like he was forced out, essentially.
So let's look at Kamala's background. Who was her father? Her father wrote books.
Hoping somebody would bring this up.
Her
A
father
Marxist
wrote
professor.
books promoting Marxist socialist
Yeah, right.
economy.
Yeah.
And so look at Obama.
We were talking about
His
this
dad
last night. That's right. So
Obama, his
Kamala's
dad
father,
was a promoter of communism.
that's right, a radical communist in another country, but yeah, he still was. That's right.
Yeah.
So
And does anybody remember what the USSR stood for?
Yeah.
The Union of Soviet Socialistic Republic. It was communism.
Yeah.
So every time they want to talk about socialism, get ready, because it is a code word for communism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay,
and
now
then Tim Walz's background,
Oh,
same sort of thing. Oh, he's a farm boy, love to take care
did
of those
no one
horses.
ask him any questions
No, I don't think so.
or look into
They
his
can't-
background?
I don't
You,
think
they
he did.
Come
can't.
on.
They can't. He's always dancing. You can't stop him to ask questions. You
I
know,
know.
who Tim Waltz, you know who would, if Saturday Night Live were still funny, and sometimes it is, who would be doing Tim Waltz would be the guy who used to do the motivational speaker, Chris Farley,
Oh, yeah.
living in a van down by the river. That would be, Chris Farley would be the perfect
You were
Tim
so
Waltz.
right. Oh my God.
I can't. Could you just see that fixing his belt and going back and forth?
That's right. Oh,
And I,
God.
I
And
just
what-
remembered there was something I was going to ask you guys. And okay, you all are living in Minneapolis, and you know Mr. Waltz, and I'm
Yeah,
wondering
I've
how
actually
in
met
the
him
world
personally. Yeah.
did you guys come up with that?
Well, I
Well-
mean, this is like the most liberal district in the United States, one of the three, where I'm sitting. I don't know, nonsense.
I will
in the
tell
rich
you
part of
how
town,
this
but-
all happened. Since you know that Minnesota is votes the way it does, I was seeing a comment once on Facebook, not long after he got elected, and he was talking about something, and he's got a very good. Well, back in the day, before he became the vice presidential candidate, he had a very reasoned way of talking. I'm not saying that what he said was any good, but it was a very reasoned thing. And so there was a clip of it on Facebook, and some woman, a mature woman, wrote underneath, "Isn't it wonderful to have a teacher as your governor?" And
Oh,
I
yeah.
swear, I came this close to writing, "Yeah, isn't it wonderful to feel like you're 5 years old again?"
That's right.
Because that's
Yeah.
what she was behaving like. But Larry, that is what got this guy, what has kept this guy really popular. He's got a very smooth way of speaking, and he sounds like he's your teacher. And boy, you'd better listen to him, because these are pearls of wisdom coming out one tooth at a time.
And
Well,
you're
he
absolutely
lost
right.
that this week.
Don,
Oh, you're not kidding.
what was that, Larry? I'm sorry, I
He
missed that.
lost that this week. He hasn't shown that this week.
Yeah.
He's a nut.
Don's actually absolutely right about this. The guy's, I mean, he has this kind of teacher vibe that everybody's kind of seen, and it's here in the Heartland, it's worked quite well. It really has
Well, he
for
was
him.
a football coach, right?
Well, I guess.
Not football.
He was an assistant football
Yeah.
coach.
Well, he's assistant coach, but he coached some other sport.
Yeah,
We just call him the gym teacher, and,
but yes,
and that tells you everything, I think.
yeah.
It's just, yeah. I mean,
Well,
And- and the media's talking about how she could have picked the governor of Pennsylvania and made herself in a better position, but she took the radical guy.
Yeah.
No,
That tell
yeah.
you anything about her.
well,
Exactly.
and also Minnesota is one of these states that's never gone Republican in the presidential thing, and so I think she wanted to, cement that. I was surprised that he was picked over. There were like three other people in the running that any one of them would have been better. But yeah, he's got that down home farm boy charm and that teacher air of authority mixed together, and it snowed people here, a couple of times, to much to our detriment. I mean, we live in a state that had a $17 billion surplus, which means we were overtaxed by $17 billion.
Exactly.
Right.
And when it came to what are they going to do with that money? Well, there's 6 million people in the state, roughly 17 billion. You divide that in there, you come close to like $3,000 each. So they could have sent us $3,000 each and said we overcharged you. No,
Yeah.
they decided to send us $520 each, and then spend $300,000 on a program to improve the opportunity for children to explore the internal mechanisms of their own minds or some shit like that. And, most of the $17 billion went for absolute bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Right.
what do you
By
say?
the way,
You
I
got
didn't
less
see any of
than
that money.
30%?
I didn't.
You got
Yeah,
less
yeah,
than
I
30%
didn't see any
of
of
the
that much.
kids that proficient at math and English
Well,
Oh, no,
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 in schools.
no, it's the same here as any place else.
That's what I'm saying.
Kids,
30%
kids
proficient.
of all colors from all uh, school districts underperform across the state. Yeah, and they were talking about sending us $520. They never did, but they kept reducing it down to maybe we'll get a nickel or something in the future. Though it was a free Johnny Pop. There were free Johnny Pops at the event I was at this afternoon, doing
John,
vision screening.
I had the same a woman tell me, female friend of mine, say almost the exact same thing to me. Isn't it nice that we have a governor that can communicate? And I thought, oh my God, it was just like almost virtually the exact same thing. Yeah, he can communicate if you're 12.
Yeah,
It's like I don't know, but okay. And that brings us. Here's another thing, and I can't remember who said this, but it's true, and I know. Now you have to take Trump derangement syndrome into account. You also have to take into account the number of people that just don't like Trump, that just don't. It's not really derangement, but under normal circumstances, the Republican candidate here would be at least 20 points ahead, and it's almost tied. So what the hell? It's like, do people really? Are they really, respond to like Beyonce singing and Megan the Stallion or whatever the hell her name is? I mean, what is, it's like people talking about the low information voter. Is that half the
Okay.
country?
Okay.
I don't
Wait.
think people are answering the polls. I think that they're just sick of that.
Yeah, well, and I told you guys before that a poll is like whatever you want it to be. When I worked at the newspaper in Kentucky and we were doing a survey, we would contact, if we could get a hold of 7 people and get a response, we considered that enough to be a good senator. and
That's good.
And you can also with your poll, when you get enough of the answers that you want, you quit.
Yeah.
And so polls mean absolutely nothing to me. I don't think they tell you anything. And
Well, we're
Don?
going to have to wait till Monday. We're going to have to wait till Monday, and the reason is because tomorrow something's going to happen with the
Oh.
RFK situation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think he is going to pull out and go with Trump only because there wouldn't have been any other reason to wait until tomorrow.
Right.
And what I think Trump and RFK are planning is to suck any energy that might have been created this week, just take it and deflate it like a balloon with an announcement like this, because I do believe that this will be a kind of a seminal moment for the Trump campaign. And I think from whatever the next poll is as a result of this, that's the way it's going to be.
Right.
Even if it's just a few points, whoever's on top in the middle of the next week, that's who's going to win the election.
Yeah, well, I think this Robert Kennedy thing is about as next to nothing as you can get. He did what most independent candidates do, which is nothing. He did not campaign. He did not get the word out. He did not get on the ballots in all the states. He announced that he was going to do this, and he made some tiny little effort, but he didn't make any kind of realistic effort to be out there. So if he has any following at all, I think it might be because he's not Trump. And if he says, I'm pulling out of the race, and pulling out of the race is like a guy in a parked car saying, oh, I'm not going to drive anymore, then, anybody who might have been following him was saying, well, I liked you because I didn't like Trump.
Okay, hold on, Tim. So I gotta. You had some interesting logic there. So I'm going under the assumption that Kennedy's basically been polling, and then now once again we're talking about polling, but
Mhm.
he's been polling consistently at about 10% of the population or the voting public. So, but
5 to 10, yeah.
yeah, but so you and I would assume that if he dropped out and endorsed Trump, about Trump would get about half of those voters, maybe. But you're saying that the people who were already polling for him, were basically voting against Trump already. Is that what you're saying? Was that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
well, I think there's part of that. Yeah, he'll get some of them, but I think again, these people are going to be cast in the middle. I mean, I don't know what his appeal was because other than he wanted to revisit, the past in some areas, I saw nothing from him about his campaign platforms. What he intended to do in any area. Nothing at all from the guy. So if he's getting 10%, 5 to 10% of people in these polls, uh, I think they're just picking him because his name is Kennedy. I don't know what there is to know about the guy since he hasn't put anything out there.
All he needs to do is be a Kennedy. That's all.
Yeah,
all he
exactly.
needs to do. He needs to be Kennedy, but the fact that a Kennedy pulled out of being a Democrat is kind of a big deal. So again, what I'm talking about, Tim, is really perceptions and whatever the media decides to drive. Now, if the media decides not to pick this up and just let it kind of sit there like a soft-boiled egg, then I think you're right. It's just going to be a nothing burger. I just think it's going to be it's going to serve one purpose, and if it does that, it'll be a good thing for Trump, and that is just to, after the euphoria of the last 4 days, is just to take a lot of air out of the tire and go into the weekend with kind of like, well, nothing really happened. So I think it's going to have a very balancing effect.
Well, as far as polls go, let's take a look at this over the years and a logical look at it. So you've got the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and NBC all coming out with a poll that puts Trump up by 1 or even. Now we got this is the New York Times and NBC. Realistically, you could extrapolate because of their hatred of Trump. You could extrapolate that to see him up about 10 points over her.
Yeah, or 5 at least.
At least 5, if not more.
From what I understand, the Trump campaign assumes they're up 5% more than reported. That's what they assume.
Right.
Well, they also
I think
assume
maybe
there's-
we've got a landslide like 1980. I think that was.
That's one of the
Well
reasons I
pointed
brought
out.
that up to
Yeah.
begin with. I actually think it's going to be kind of like 1982, but whatever. Or also, I mean, Tim, you were saying?
Well, I don't know what I'm saying. I just think I don't think it's going to be any kind of landslide. I think Trump keeps playing to the people he's already got, and he's not really reaching very far to the left of where they are, toward the middle. And the Harris and Waltz thing, especially with Waltz, I think they're way out on the other side, but they're presenting themselves as covering all the ground, covering all the people that Trump isn't covering.
I think the middle. I think the middle is firmly in Trump's camp. I think the whole political system has changed so much that the center is now in with the right because of the ridiculousness of what the far left is doing.
Well, I don't know. He appeals to the far right, and I think the middle is what derogatorily called rhinos, Republicans in name only, who really don't like the Trump direction, and they are more likely to go on the other side simply because they've been cast out.
That's exactly what I was talking about before. The difference
Yeah.
between Trump derangement syndrome and the people who just don't like Trump. I mean, there is. I think there's a huge, I won't say huge, a significant difference. The Trump derangement people have been hypnotized. They've been brainwashed. But there are people, a lot of people that just don't like Trump. You know, they just don't.
They love what
No.
he does, but they don't like him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah, right.
Yeah, well, there's that as well, and I this is because this is part of the presentation of Trump, mainly in the media, but some of the things that he says that are way out there, people are afraid of what he's going to do if he gets in, and with Harris, they're not so much afraid of her, although 4 more years of this stuff, and we're going to be in a real world of hurt. I mean,
Yeah, really. You're not
I know-
afraid of that
I know
calculated
he-
agency? Did you see? Go
I
ahead.
know Trump's been accused of saying things that he's going to do, but in reality, he actually never said them. And
Right.
that's where
Well-
the media has really pushed that narrative.
Well, no, but I've heard him say these things. I mean, I've seen the reports. He scares people, and
Kind of the way Don scares people.
That's my job.
he's so
I know,
charming.
you got a mask on, shit.
He's so
Oh,
charming. He's
right.
got a sword.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm-
when are we going to get some color into this mask?
yeah, I know. It's very
What do you want, a
monochromatic.
fucking rainbow?
It's very true.
A little,
All right.
a little,
I'm gonna
a little
pull it-
gray along the side of the mask, or
Hey, speaking of rainbows,
Yeah.
remember that earthquake that happened in San Francisco? Was it the early '90s, late '80s, or something? Remember
Yeah.
that big?
Yes.
It was like
Yeah.
during the World
Right.
Series and all that.
Yeah.
Do you realize that not one gay guy died during that earthquake? You know why? These guys
Why?
already had their shit packed.
All right. Okay. Thank you for ending our session with that joke. I was going to say I'm going to pull up John McLaughlin here and make 2 predictions or a prediction. I think Trump is going to win the election because I think that the difference, although it's going to be slight, this thing about RFK endorsing him will make the difference between him winning and not, even though I don't think it's a lot of votes, but it'll be enough. And also because Kamala, made a huge mistake not picking Josh Shapiro as her running mate, and that will come back to bite her in the ass. And if
Yeah.
she loses Pennsylvania, she loses. So,
Well, nobody votes for the vice president.
no, I know, but
They
the
vote
thing
for
is,
the,
my
Trump
point-
said this himself.
but the
Nobody
people-
votes for the
the
vice
people
president.
in Pennsylvania might vote for their own guy. I mean, just like in 1980, the only state Reagan lost was Minnesota because Swandale was from here. Same type of deal. I mean, normally you're right. I think that's really true. But I mean, the local people would have voted for their local guy, and I think that might make the difference. So,
If
Maybe
the
not.
voters pay attention to what they do versus what they say, then he'll win in a landslide.
yeah, but that's a real question.
If they go to believe in all this hot air that she's blowing, then there's a race.
And not only that, if they believe that hot air, maybe we get the government we deserve, like the old thing goes. It's like, I mean, she's completely full of shit, and if that's what people want, God bless them. It's like, but the
Well-
problem is then we're on the road to communism. But I don't know.
It took Carter to get us Reagan, and it's taken Joe Biden to get us Donald back in the White House.
Yeah,
Well, here's the factor that I see. In places, let's use Minnesota as an example. The major cities, your St. Paul's and Minneapolis, your major urban centers. So now let's take Illinois, Chicago, let's take portions of New York, maybe even portions of California. That's a big stretch. Point being is that one of the things that sways urban centers is the ethnic diversity in there. If the blacks that are turned off from the Democrats and the Latinos that are also turned off from the Democrats come out in big numbers, and the RFK thing, if there actually is any kind of cheating going on, those numbers I think will help to make the difference between what any kind of cheating, if it happens, goes on. Otherwise, barring the cheating, this is going to be the election where I think the minorities are going to make a difference one way or the other, and I think
Interesting.
it's going to go Trump's way because how many live in the urban centers.
Yeah.
Who
Interesting.
was it that made famous the saying that it's the economy, stupid?
Oh yeah, right.
James
Yeah,
Carville.
that's Clinton. That's Clinton.
Okay, it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
if that holds true, like every other election, and it's
Right.
the economy, then Trump's going to win by a landslide.
I got to let you guys go about that. That we could talk another hour about that because God in heaven, if the gaslighting involved in these people, how can you turn around and tell the people constantly, well, no, the economy is actually doing really well. It's just you don't notice. Well, fuck you. I mean, God, that's crap. That's just crap. I mean, it's like, it's like they're literally telling us to our faces, we don't know what we should think. I don't know. It just really bothers the crap out of me. And with that, guys, I will let you guys go. And also, we're gonna end the show for tonight. We're coming back on Monday. I got some guests lined up for next week, but I'm not gonna announce it. I want to thank you guys, Tim Conaway, Larry Newman, Don Zorro. Thank you so much. God, it's like God bless us, everyone.
Everyone have a safe Labor Day.
Yeah. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll see you guys. I don't know if I'll see you guys before then or not. I don't know. I gotta check the calendar. We'll talk.
Yeah, it's a state fair, the great Minnesota get together.
That's right. The
Oh,
big get
God.
together.
Twice,
I don't know.
including Labor Day. So
That's a local thing, Larry. The Minnesota State Fair is a big deal around here. So
Well,
yeah.
state fair in every state's a big deal. Yeah.
yeah, I guess it
Yeah.
is. Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you. Good night, Esperanza. Good night, Uncle Donnie. Good night to all you folks. I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on Monday. Thanks, guys. Take care. All right. We'll see you.
Later.